Now, Pisces, 25 degrees, this will be the 6 point of 7 points. The 6 point is 7 points. Pisces, 25 degrees. This is feedback that is generated. Feedback that is generated from Libra, 21 degrees, which is surrendering self-importance. So once we have surrendered self-importance, and for those details, you can refer to that video, which is the 5th point, surrendering self-importance, we're going to arrive at feedback. We are now generating feedback. This feedback internally, this feedback externally, in both cases, esoterically and exoterically, we are going to get feedback as a result of surrendering our self-importance. That feedback will be on the wise of Pisces, 25 degrees, which carries the value or meaning of ridding ourselves of negative thought. Ridding ourselves of negative thought. So, I'll lead with the explanation of the Sabian symbol, Pisces, 25 degrees, which is the purging of the priesthood. The purging of the priesthood. The priesthood, first of all, this is the collective community, the collective agreement, the collective unity of coming together through our higher selves, coming together upon agreements through our higher selves, coming together upon higher frequencies, higher aims and purpose. That is the priesthood. Understand, the purging of the priesthood. Pisces 25, rooting out corruption. Rooting out corruption. However sincere an initial impulse was, as I read, there will always be corrupting influences. Sometimes it is best to restart and refresh. Sometimes it is best to restart and refresh. Rid yourself of negative thought. So, here is the thing. Our relationships, once we get rid of our self-importance, we open ourselves up to initiate opportunity with others for greater cause. We become more open-minded to receive others for purpose, for aims, for objectives that holds a greater value than what we have calculated for our own ego. In doing so, it places us in connection with others. It makes us stand together, holding hands, grasping hands, circling around a cause, circling around a need, circling around our needs for ourselves. This is what we are doing by ridding ourselves of self-importance. Once we got that self-importance out of the way, we begin to open up to who we can be if we would only join hands, if we would only work together, if we would only understand that the other person has just as much value to offer and contribute. The other person's perspective holds just as much weight. The other person's needs, the other person's input, experience, wisdom. Somebody and everybody else has something to contribute. Imagine if we learn to honor that fact. Imagine if we could open our minds up to a greater value than monetary significance. How much money do you have? Status. What's your title? What's your gross income? Your annual income? Just imagine if we could get beyond these limitations in how we measure each other. The genius that is available, the skill and talent that is available, the creativity that is available, skill that is available, experience that is available, expertise. We can't fathom how far we would go. It is vast, especially if we're holding hands knowing that whatever we lack is only but a moment that we realize the solution together. So there's feedback being generated. Oh, I have to rid myself of negative thoughts. Well, where would that come from? It comes from the first phase, the initiating steps of grasping hands with others, holding hands with the community, opening up to the community, seeing yourself as a part of the community. You're going to get feedback. Because what we were entertaining in ourselves that kept us from opening up to the community, joining hands with the community, it was noise in our head. It was noise in our heart. And what I mean by noise is we all have been tainted by corruption. We've been influenced by other people's fears. We've been limited by fears, limited by perversions and insecurities, guilt, burdens of guilt, shame. We wear these burdens. We inherit it from family, from colleagues, work, media, social media especially, our siblings growing up, our self-talk. We start to notice that there's a sincerity in us. Because this is Pisces, we have to talk about the essence and form, okay? The duality of essence and form. The essence in us, it has a sincere desire to create, to manifest. A sincere desire to take from the impulses that we have naturally and to simply give it form. You have the impulse of Venus, and Venus wants you to give it the form of art, connection with people, pleasure, joy, wealth, comforts. You have the impulse of Mars. I want to create something. I want to fight for something. I want to defend something in the name of justice and truth. You have Jupiter. I want to write. I want to teach. I want to learn. I want to spread truth. I want to be competent. I want to be abundant and generous. I want to share. I want to give and spread my kindness. Neptune. I want to be all-inclusive. I want to be accepted by all, and I want to receive all. I want to dissolve into oneness. I want to feel like I'm a part of a whole and not alone. I want there to be no boundaries between me and the all. I want to see where everything is the same, not different. You look at Saturn, I want to process. I want to be part of the infrastructure. I want to be part of the working, intricate details that upholds a project, a structure. I want to form a character, a discipline that achieves and reaches success, victory, and greatness, iconic heights. So the impulses are there. Through Pisces, it is an urge. It is an urge of the soul, an urge of the heart. And that urge is asking you to use your imagination and your competence, which is Neptune and Jupiter, through Pisces, to use your imagination and your competence to call Mars into action as the carpenter to create that which you have visualized as a concept of your impulse. And now what was once an impulse becomes something that has form, something that has a name, a designation, a shape, a function, a category. So we have to get back to the essence of our impulses. And we have to figure out, we have to take notice of, where does our impulses get sabotaged by negative thought? Where does it get sabotaged by fear? Where does it get sabotaged by perversions, guilt, things of this nature? Because surely what you feel, what you urge, it is good. Everything that you feel is good. Everything that you have an urge for, it is good. The only thing that can make it bad is to give it form that does harm to the self or others. A form that creates misfortune for the self or for others. And fear inevitably creates misfortune. It creates regret. It creates haste, flight, the minimalization of what is great in the self. Fear creates our regrets when we create from fear, because we create that very thing that we fear in the first place. Why? Because it's meant for us to examine that fear, to learn from that fear, that it really was nothing to fear in the first place. The 12th house is where we have impulses, if you have planets there. If it's just a sign, it is an algorithm. If it is a planet, it is an impulse. Understand? But for those who have planets in the 12th house, these impulses are asking you to give it form. Give me form. 12th house in Pisces. If we have planets in the 12th house of Pisces, it says, give me form. Name me. Choose a form for me to take in the physical, animated world. As an example, Saturn is in Pisces. With Saturn is in Pisces, it's asking you to give, Saturn is asking you to give it the form of a character in you. Give me a character in you that upholds your greatest ideals, that upholds your faith. Give me a character in you. Form a character for me so that I can be with you on my behalf. Form a character that overcomes fear. Form a character that overcomes self-undoing. That's what Saturn is asking you to do from Pisces. The essence of it. It's asking you to give it form. What does that look like, in other words? To have a character that overcomes fear. To have a character that overcomes its self-undoings. What does that look like? A recipe, a process, an infrastructure, a plan. a strategy. Discipline, what does it look like? So we all want to do good. We all want to do good. We were created in the image and likeness of God, Allah, Jah, however you want to call the Most High. We were created in the image and likeness of the Most High. We are the vicegerents, the successors in His place. So therefore, we have an urge to do what is good. But there are thoughts that we have, subconscious and prefrontal, from the heart and from the head. There are thoughts and meditations that we have that corrupts the impulses that are natural in our heart and soul to bring forth. It corrupts it. A little girl says, I want to be loved. That impulse from the subconscious or 12th house, it may say to her, I want to be loved. I want to feel love. So she goes and she gives it a form that does harm to her. She goes and have a baby before she's prepared for it, before she's mature enough for it. Thinking that that is the appropriate form to answer that impulse. I want to be loved. So she goes and off with someone who gives her the illusion of that. And she ends up in a crisis. So we do have to be selective of our thoughts. And we have to be selective of the influences that we strategically place around us. And we have to place limitation about who has access to us and who doesn't. Isn't this part of the value of self? If you really value yourself, you are not accessible to just anyone. You use discretion. You use wisdom. Sound judgment. Who's around you and what is around you? That takes influence to your thoughts. That puts trash in the pure waters of Pisces. That pollutes the waters of Pisces. Look at the picture here, if it's still there at the time. The fish with a plastic bag in the depth of the ocean. That doesn't belong there. Who put it there? A plastic bag is not native to the ocean floor. Pisces rules the ocean depths, the ocean floors. Olokun. Olokun. Trash is not native to the oceans, especially the ocean depths. It's alien to that environment, just as negative thoughts are alien to our subconscious impulses. It's not supposed to be there. Who put it there? Where did it come from? Fear has a lot to do with why we select negative thoughts. Fear and self-sabotage. Fear is at the root of most of this. When we rid ourselves of negative thought, we free the capacity and potential of our power to create and manifest. We free it up. Because negative thoughts and fears or guilt and shame, this places limitation on the imagination. It restricts the imagination to the thresholds of threat, through the limitations of threats that we entertain in our thought, that we select and identify with, that we validate in our thoughts. You have an idea, you have a dream, and you share it with the wrong person. And now that person, oh, that sounds silly. That sounds crazy. That's not going to work. Well, how are you going to do that? And we all know we don't share our dreams with just anyone. You have to protect your dreams. You have to protect your imagination. Your imagination is where everything starts in your creative process. That's why Pisces, or the imagination, that is God. Because anything that comes from there is possible. Anything. If you can imagine it, it is indeed possible. If you can think it, it can be. We cannot form a thought that we do not have the ability to bring into existence also. We do. But negative thoughts sabotage and rob us of those expansive and unlimited possibilities. We get struck right back down. So imagine if we get rid of our self-importance and we see the picture that what we have potential to manifest collectively, to accomplish collectively, that is what's important. That's what's priority. That's what's most important, right? After self-preservation, of course. And we fix our imagination on that without entertaining fear or limitations, without entertaining negative thoughts. We dream, we imagine, we think of what's possible, and we nurture the thought. We water the thought. We give color and depth to what we place in the imagination, seeding it and feeding it until it becomes a reality through your efforts and through the collective efforts of others, who you also realize is just as important. We're at a place now where we're expected to lean into our imaginations, to make use of our imaginations, dust it off, recover it, revive it, bring it back alive. Imagine, imagination, think, ponder, dream, fantasize, project the thought, project the image, color it, give it color, make it vivid, nurture it, believe in it, speak it, pray on it, meditate on it, and it's going to manifest. Only wise of ridding ourselves of imagination, we are rooting out corruption, obviously. And getting at the root of corruption, obviously, is the thought that leads to corrupt words and deeds. However sincere an initial impulse was, there will always be corrupting influences, our own thoughts and imagination, and also the interference of others or infiltration of others' negative thoughts and imaginations, fears, and limitations. Sometimes it is best to restart and refresh. On this wise, never think that we should attach to anything. And it's not necessary for us to be harsh on ourselves about realizing what we imagine may not be as sincere to our authentic identity or our purpose or calling as we once thought. Just think about the moment of disillusion where we made a storyline for ourselves, and then we put a timeline to that story of what we wanted our story to look like or be. But then our destiny would have it that tower moments would come, change of courses would come, disillusion would manifest, and we would realize what you were imagining was actually a limitation. It was plagued with fears, perversions, and guilt and shame. And because of that, you selected these different courses and directions that you tried to make yourself happy in. But it wasn't true to you. And it forced us to sit with ourselves in that feeling of disappointment. I thought I was supposed to be this, or I thought I was supposed to go here and do that. But if we really get transparent with ourselves, we'll see, did you choose that because you were afraid to do what you really had an impulse to do? Or someone else's fears and limitations and insecurities were projected onto you? So you thought it was what you must do? You lived it out, and destiny overcame the error. Destiny overwhelmed the error. And disillusionment is here, where even though you wanted it to be true because of what you feared, even though you hoped that it would be the case because of the limitations that you have upon your own ideal of yourself, it didn't come true. And the disappointment lingers, and you suffer until you learn to let go. You suffer until you learn to release the ideal of past that was infiltrated by negative thoughts. That wasn't the priesthood. That was the den of thieves. It wasn't the priesthood. It was the den of thieves where you were manifesting from. But now that you reach the priesthood and purifying the thoughts, imagining from the higher frequencies of the self, the clarification of who you are, the purging of the senses, and living as righteous as you can, it becomes clearer to you that who you are could be much bigger. But the titles could be much smaller. Now, isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic? And so, your imagination takes over in its freedom, no longer entertaining fears and limitations, seeing that you are not as important, or you don't have to be as important as society would pressure you to be with all of these titles and achievements and disciplines. You simply have to follow your heart. You follow what the Spirit is leading you to. And there's a sense of fulfillment. Something is attracting you to a pathway that seems to light you up and comfort you as you walk. Something attracts you to a direction that is quite familiar to your soul. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what to think. But faith gives you all the confidence you need in knowing that you are aligned correctly. And you keep going. And as you do, destiny has a way of unfolding once you have aligned with it in mysterious ways, from sources that you could never imagine, by means that you could not fathom. And that's when you know you are walking with God. You are walking in the power of your Pisces. It is manifest. And it began with letting go of self-importance upon the ideals of what the world told you is an important title to stand in. And so you see your service, it heals you as you heal others. It helps you as you help others. It gives you joy and comfort as you comfort and give joy to others. And you even found a way that you could receive monetary compensation because it was meant for you. Wealth, money, it flows. It flows. And it finds you wherever you go. And abundance finds you when you are in an abundant state. You will have abundance because you are filled with abundance for what you do. There is no lack or limitation. And suddenly we found heaven. Suddenly we brought heaven down to earth. And it took for us to get out of our ways, to join hands, to become sincere, to purge and cleanse our senses, to get away from the toxicity, the heathens, the wickedness, the darkness. And we become witnesses that heaven really is a kingdom that we help to build, expand, and preserve. It's a kingdom. And everyone is compensated for. There is no lack or limitation in such kingdom. Imagine. Rid yourself of negative thought. There's a lot of ego adjustments to be made according to this degree. And the feedback for the ego adjustments that we have to make is going to come from the fact that we opened ourselves up after getting rid of our self-importance. You get feedback from the people that you come together with, that you work with, that you find unity with. And that feedback, it's going to check your ego. It's going to highlight your ego. It's going to raise attention to your ego so that you can heal it, so that you can cure it, so that you can demand authority over it. I, self, Lord, and Master. The ego must submit to your will, to your authority. And this is what relationships are all about. They are the mirrors by which we get to adjust and check and hold accountable our own egos as we go. Imagine a relationship where you don't have to apologize, where you don't have to take accountability. It doesn't exist. Every relationship requires maintenance. It requires care, investment, sensitivity, integrity, mutual reciprocation. Every relationship requires that often we will have to apologize, acknowledging our errors, imperfections, mistakes, offenses. Do unto others. So, with that being said, purity is the view, purity of thoughts, and that feedback on where we need to clear those negative thoughts. It's going to come from those who we work with, who we're engaged with. Look into that mirror. That other person is only a mirror of how much more we need to understand about love, how much more we need to understand about selflessness, how much more we need to understand about allowing our intuition and clairvoyance to guide us on how to meet each other where they need to be found at. Understand?